bed in the near future?
No.
You ever going to bed?
No.
So this is our first time, like, sitting down
properly.
We almost sat down in November. We met at Music Week.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, he looks like George Woodhouse. And I was like, wait, I think that is George Woodhouse. So I said, are you George Woodhouse? In the lobby of the Holiday Inn in Sydney, Nova Scotia. And you said, yeah. And I said, cool. Because with CFXU, we had Lost Soul Rodeo on rotation, so I'd like hear it and be like, oh, that's a great tune, and you know what I mean? And so then we kind of met through that, and I remember seeing you throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
And it was very... I actually have a video I want to pull up, which you can see on our Instagram. I'll post it after this.
Cool.
But I was listening to Songs for the Living, just sitting in my car, and I saw you walking by. So I have a video, and the caption originally was, listening to George Woodhouse, and there's George Woodhouse. But I feel like I should make the distinction now, because when I met you, it was George Woodhouse and the Public Service, but now it's the Public Service. So I will ask you about that, but first I want to get this video pulled up, because I think it would be absolutely perfect and fitting to have it. Yeah, here we go. There you are, just walking.
Is that outside one of the pizza places?
Yeah, that's Napoli.
That's outside of Napoli.
Yeah.
Classic. I mean, if I'm going to be spotted anywhere in Sydney, I'm glad it was at such a fine establishment.
It's the best pizza I've had.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. You know?
It was... Music Week was not just about the music. It was about the pizza, about getting to know Sydney, about meeting the locals... That new cidery, the Island Folk place they got there, and then the old convent they converted into an art space. It's like that place was such a treat to get to be reintroduced to.
Right, so you haven't done much of Sydney exploration before that?
A little tiny bit. I used to do some work in high schools when this is like almost 10 years ago, but it wasn't music related, and I didn't ever get to experience the nightlife like you do at Music Week.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's a false sense of Sydney nightlife, like for Music Week. Right. The nightlife is really not as prevalent as it was that weekend.
Yeah, fair enough. Like,
you know,
it is sort of imported wherever Music Week goes, I guess.
But it is a great layout, you know,
yes.
Where it's like you could just we just walked venue to venue the whole weekend.
We were saying multiple times that weekend that Sydney may perhaps be the best Nova Scotia town for Music Week in terms of city planning. Like it was almost planned for Music Week.
100%. Like I did the ECMAs, just went up and just did the same thing I was doing at Music Week, and just like trying to get venue to venue was impossible unless it was the Seahorse and the Marquee. Like you were going upstairs and downstairs. Yeah. Because you can't, there's 15 minutes till the next set we gotta run. There was none of that. Sydney was just so perfect for it, right?
Sydney was great. Yarmouth will be good too. I don't know if we're going to make it down, but small town. I just love it when a small town comes alive and everybody shows up for the music and the artists. And I got to say that you're talking about CFXU, and last night I had a CFXU moment and I thought of you.
Really?
Because we played at Candid. Played a show. There was a handful of people there, but it was just the perfect crowd. And afterwards, we had to do the ritual of going to the wheel. And I'd never been before. And you're just walking in, and all the photos on the walls, they're all yellowy. And it's like they're from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and 2000s. It's like, what an institution. And then the soundtrack to all of it was just like the best songs, and then suddenly it's like, that's Elise Aaron. It's like, oh my gosh. Or that's like Renee Smith. It's like, man, like they're playing local artists, but it just, it didn't feel like a radio station. It felt like a playlist. And then someone said, like, CFXU. And I'm like, it didn't occur to me that when our song was played, thanks to you, on the radio, that it would have been played in that pizza place.
Right.
Which, that to me is another connection, you know, like, it was a moment. I'm like, I can't believe that our songs have reverberated off of these legendary walls for whoever was in here getting a donaire or whatever. So
I didn't know they did that. I didn't know they had our station. That's so cool.
It is very cool because it's like the music is a big part of the experience of such a signature Antigonish experience. So
100%.
Yeah, man.
So I guess I want to ask you about, I mean, you've talked about the song everyday thing, you know, for a year and the formation of the public service, but I want to talk about you and what kind of, you know, music you were into growing up. Like, what kind of stuff were you listening to? Are you from Nova Scotia?
I'm not. I grew up in Owen Sound, Ontario, so about 3 hours north of Toronto, and a small town that never had big artist names, like even big Canadian artists. That you'd have to go to Toronto to do that stuff, and that wasn't something we really had time or resources to do. So I listened to a lot of music on my Discman and on the radio. Mix 106.5 was like they were the ones feeding me my influences, and I got to pick what I liked. But Bare Naked Ladies is, I always say that because I grew up with them, you know. Those songs were on the radio, but also in my own personal CD library. I just loved the way that they could write songs that were funny, that also could make you cry, and they didn't really seem to care about genre too much or staying in a box. And they were kind of folky and campy, but also rocky, and it's like, wow. So
yeah, so you mentioned folk, and I think a term that gets thrown around a lot these days is the term indie folk.
Yes, I was gonna say, you're gonna say indie then folk.
But like a lot of artists say it, and in my own, you know, musical experience, it's like you want to say you're folk, but you want to add indie to it. But when I listened to your record again today, just in preparation, and I was thinking, this feels so much like indie folk. It feels like that's what that word means, you know. So I guess I want to ask about your approach to writing and to finding a sound, because you listen to songs like Lost Soul Rodeo, where it's like super chilled out, nice, like jangly kind of guitar. But then other tracks on the record are like very, you know, they feel very rootsy. It feels like Stanfest. Yeah. You know, one song feels like Stanfest, the next feels like Jazz Fest. Yeah. Like, it's really interesting how you can blend those sounds, but it doesn't feel like a playlist. It still feels like everything's very kind of cohesive.
Wow, I appreciate that, man.
Well, of course. I guess I just want to know, like, when you approach writing, do you have, say, like, this song should be kind of this way, or this song should be this way, or how do you find that sound as you go along?
I am a lyrics person. I think I've always known that it's not my voice that's going to necessarily be remembered or connect easily. You know, there's just those people, those singers, that the iconic voices, and I've always, I guess I've felt like I'm going to spend my energy doing the thing that feels like my thing, which for me has been lyrics. And then also the way they're delivered, not so much sang, but I listened to a lot of hip hop and a lot of rap growing up. Like, I loved the Bare Naked Ladies, and I feel like they informed my soul. But what informed my, I'll say, like, almost my tool or my instrument of my voice, I listened to a lot of, I'm going on the record with this, but I listened to a lot of Eminem and a lot of Snow, if you remember Snow from Informer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had every Snow CD. And Snow also ventured into a pop album with Mind on the Moon, where it was like, everybody wants to be like you. And it was... And I guess I grew up and learned that maybe that wasn't cool at a certain point, so I sort of kept a lot of that under wraps. And there's so much music snobbery in high school, especially, that I felt like I almost kind of kept a lot of myself hidden and was like, yeah, of course I like, Nirvana and like Screamo, like all the things that seemed fringe and cool to like. I had to pretend I did. I didn't have to, but I did. But what I really clocked the most hours listening to were like rap, hip hop, and also kind of like fun, folky rock. Bare Naked Ladies. I love Great Big Sea. When I moved to Halifax to go to university, Joel Plaskett really was like this discovery for me that brought so many things together. And to this day, I still draw a lot of influence from his songwriting as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was reading a bit of the press release information for that last record you dropped, and it said, I don't want to throw your words back at you, but it was something along the lines of like, these are love letters as songs. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to ask you about that. What does that mean, I guess, to you and also to the music? What does that mean, I guess, on a personal level, but also on a musical level?
I really appreciate that question. I do describe the songs as sometimes as love letters for sure, like Home in Me, which is a song on the album that just came out as a love letter to my parents. I think I just came of age and realized one day just how much my parents did for me and the sacrifices they made so that I could be sitting where I'm sitting right now. This is all an accumulation of opportunities that they gave to me. And of course it's cool to kind of think your parents don't understand you, and it's easy to do that. But so that was a love letter to them. There's love letters to my dad who passed away in 2020, friends who are no longer with us, and to friends who are grieving the people that they've lost. So I do write music that sometimes it's easier for me to express my love for someone through a song than it is for me to be vulnerable and just go up to them and say, hey, like, I love you. So it's therapy for me, but they're also just journal entries where I'm like wrestling with things. I think Physics and Love is kind of like that too. It's like life and the universe, and it's very broad, but then it comes back to a central theme of like, all we are is love and physics, and everything else is impermanent. So I went off the rails with that one, but I like I said, lyrics is what I'm in it for.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I remember that the hook of that song, like just driving today from the city and just sitting and being like, wow, like. I think that's the beauty in songs and in writing in general, is like the ability to make people think of things in ways they wouldn't before. Because we tend to think of love as this fleeting thing, but it can kind of be forever. I think that, and that's just to say that I think your music does that really well. It presents like unique perspective that I think people can really use. Is that like a mission statement? Are you intending to do that, or are you just kind of writing these things and just kind of throwing them out there as a public service?
The latter. That's a beautiful description. I might take that with me. Yeah. I am writing things and offering them as a public service. And what makes them a public service, I really do feel is showing up to either perform them live or to find a way to get them recorded and put them out there. Because in 2023, if you're making music, you're not in it for the money or privatizing it or whatever, or you can be. I'm not saying you can't be, but there's definitely every artist is being driven by something that's bigger than that and more than that. It'd be great if we could all also be, could survive off of that, but it's so hard to do. But I do feel like the shift to the band name from George Woodhouse and the Public Service to the Public Service, I hope it opens it up even more so that others can offer their creative expression through this band. We have some songs that are going to be on our next record that are written by other members in the band, and it's great that that's a part of our service too. And I'll still keep writing and contributing to the band, but yeah, the service, man. I write things and I offer them as a public service.
I think like that's interesting too, like opening up the band in that way where it's no longer George Woodhouse and the public service, it's the public service, and now like other members of the group are writing stuff. Is that I've always wondered kind of how that process goes, because I mean so many people have so many different perspectives and visions on things, you know?
Yeah.
Is it kind of difficult to kind of try to wrangle everything into one big project, you know, into one album where I feel sometimes, you know, in these different directions we can kind of get pulled in different ways, but is it I guess is it more difficult to kind of make things connected when there's so many different views and ways to look at things on this new record?
Gosh, these are really, really great questions, really great prompts. Things that I've been percolating on in my subconscious for sure, but seldom consciously ask myself. The whole shift from the name dropping my name and just holding on to the public service happened at a band retreat, and it really is this simple. We were having such a good time as a band. Joss, who sings with us, was bringing a couple of her songs to the band, and we were like, whoa, we were just so excited by the music. And it was one of those moments where you very clearly see that this is what it's all about. Like, I'm with my friends, we're creating something that excites us, and we want to share it with the world. And to me, it felt like calling it George Woodhouse in the public service, there was something nagging that was like limiting that, you know, that I was the one putting my stamp on it. So I pitched it to the band impromptu on the spot, kind of out of this excited place, you know, spontaneous, and everyone was like, well, yeah, no, everyone was into it. And I will also say that like I've had a lot of back and forth since the decision's been made about like, okay, what does this mean for my journey as an artist? And I think we see a lot of artists start as bands and then do the solo thing. And in a way, this started as my thing, but it's becoming bigger than me, and so I wanted a name that reflected that. But to your point, like, how does that fit? How do you make that work from a business standpoint or from like a branding standpoint? Or what is your website now? Is it georgewoodhouse.com? All these stupid little technical questions. Your artist account on streaming services. All these little things, like, you don't want them to matter, but they do. Mm-hmm. And so I keep coming back to trying to be kind to myself and take the pressure off of getting all the ducks in a row so that I can proceed artistically, and to just make the art I want to make and be kind of ragtag about it. I think that's where my happiness will come from, and hoping that the business side of it or whatever will catch up to that. So I'm gonna do stuff with the public service. I'm gonna do singer-songwriter stuff and do solo shows, and maybe I'll play in somebody else's band. I don't know, but that's where I'm at. And I think when I'm at my best, I can really feel that. And when I'm having a hard day, I'm worried that I made a decision that I can't take back. But today is like, I'm feeling really great about it.
Good. I think that's it's an interesting thing to have to wrangle, and I kind of like how you mentioned that, you know, it's kind of gone in the reverse direction that many artists do, where a lot of people start as bands and then go solo.
Yeah.
But I mean, with you, it was like you're kind of releasing yourself from it and saying, this is us now, it's not just me.
Yeah. Which
can be a really hard thing, I think, to wrangle with, you know, and to kind of not in a you know, negative way or in a bad way, but just kind of like releasing some of that control, you know, Does that make any sense?
Totally, man. Releasing control, and at the same time, nothing's really changed other than the name. Like, I still treat it like I was treating the project when it was under my name. You know, trying to book things, trying to grow the project. But now it's. Now it feels like something that all of us have more of a stake in a way.
Yeah.
And I still want to offer the project that leadership. So I still consider myself a band leader, and that feels good. So I still feel like I have plenty of creative control, but the act of the name change, I think, was an opening. You know, you do make yourself, you're inviting more ideas to the table, and that was happening anyways. So I think it's a good practice. You know, keeping our hearts open is the key to growing into our truth.
100%. And so I want to ask you about this new record. You mentioned you have new music coming.
Yeah.
How far along are you in that? Are you in the writing process, recording process?
Yeah. There's some old songs that never made it onto the first record that we love playing as a band that we want to put out there. So we'll throw a couple of those on the new record. And there's some new ones that have been written really collaboratively as the band. And then there's some that aren't written yet. And we just need to find time. We're all busy. We all have jobs. We just need to find time to get in the studio and do it. And I think we want to be a bit more like shooting from the hip on this one, where we go in and do a lot more like live off the floor and just instead of doing every individual track like we did on the first record, to trust that whatever comes out, you know, I think believe in ourselves a little bit more, which our first record, we cared so much about it, so we wanted to make sure every part was the best it could be. But I think now we're growing into this belief that the thing that happens in the moment is magic, and that people will can respond to that in just as good of a way, or sometimes even better.
I think it's amazing that kind of as your speech was crescendoing, a piano started playing in the background.
It felt really good. It felt like, yes, this is the scene in the movie where I say the inspirational thing and the plot thickens in a good way.
You're playing at Port Hawkesbury tonight.
Yeah.
You played here before?
No, but I'm so glad to be here in Port Hawkesbury. Yeah.
That's the first time someone said that.
Yeah.
To be here in Port Hawkesbury. I mean, what's next for you? You got a show at the Shore Club coming up August 11th?
Yeah, man. The Town Heroes and Daniel James McFadgen will have invited us to join that night. Really, I gotta say, the Town Heroes, I met Mike and Bruce in 2009 when I first moved to Nova Scotia. And ever since then, they have been like big brothers, like friends, and their wings are so big, and they've taken us under and given us so many opportunities, including the one right here in Port Hawkesbury, to play Granville Green. And they've never asked for anything in return. They've just wanted to see, they've just believed in us and believed in me. And any chance I get to, I'll tell them that I love them to their face, but I really appreciate that, and I hope that someday that I can do more of that as an artist who's established and can create space for others to come. Yeah, they've inspired 100%. Me. Yeah.
Daniel James McFadgen spoke highly of you at Music Week. I said, I met Dan for the first time at Music Week also, and I said, I met George Woodhouse today, and he said, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then proceeded to hype you up, and Music Week is where it all starts.
Yeah.
And it all comes full circle. Yeah, so what else is coming up? Anything interesting?
Yeah, the Shore Club is a big one, and we've had honestly a pretty busy summer for our standards. Played Standfest, Full Circle Festival, Granville Green. We played in towns and communities we've never played in before this weekend. So I think once the Shore Club's over, we'll be taking a little break, but we've got a big show lined up in January at the stage at St. Andrews.
Nice.
That's going to be a special one. And that's special because that was where the band first had the public service for the first time ever performed there.
Oh, wow.
After the end of the Song a Week project, I struck up this band, Ragtag, and there we were, and it stuck. So that'll feel like a full circle moment to go back to the stage at St. Andrews.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah, buddy. I'm really glad to finally get to sit down with you. And your questions, I gotta say, it's so appreciated whenever you, thank you for taking the time to listen to the music and reading the liner notes or the press release. Like, it reminds me of what was written and sung, and it's nice to reconnect with that. So,
Absolutely.
it's a pleasure.
Cool.
Hey, thank you very much for listening to this week's show. If you want to listen to more Mixed Rhythm content, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this right now. You can check us out on Instagram at Mixed Rhythm, Facebook.com/The Mixed Rhythm. You can check out our YouTube channel, just search up Mixed Rhythm. And if you go to our Instagram and click the link in our bio, you'll find our link tree with all of our different stuff. You can also find that information on our website, mixedrhythm.wordpress.com. Thank you very much for listening to this week's show. We'll see you again soon.